At its core, political correctness is the concept by which we regulate what we say or do for the appeasement of other people's feelings. In other words, the only basis for your actions is that you don't want to offend people. So, for example, you'll see it where employers give some candidates special consideration, not because they're actually qualified for the job, but rather because they belong to a certain ethnic group or gender. Other times you'll see it where you're not allowed to express support for certain groups of people, but you have to express support for others. Now, there are many reasons why I stand in opposition against this, but before we get into those, I think it's important to know where it originates from, why it really exists. Because while the proponents of political correctness would have you believe that there's some selfless or noble motivation behind it, the reality is that's just not true. Because sometimes people are just parroting opinions that they've been told to have because they didn't learn how to think for themselves. Other times they do have their own opinions, but they're just too spineless to stand up for them because they're unpopular opinions. Or the entrepreneurs among us look at the crowd of people that are easily offended and they see value, because that means more votes if you're a politician, more customers if you're a business, more students if you're a university, etc. So now let's take a look at some of the reasons why this concept is so ridiculous. Number one, it's just not fair. And what is fairness? That's where whenever people are competing for success, they all have an equal opportunity to get there. In other words, the standards to achieve something are within your control rather than not. And why should we be fair? I would use proof by contradiction on that one and say, why shouldn't we? Because at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we're all fundamentally equal. At least it should be that way. But as soon as you start to throw PC stuff in there, that's where you kind of throw that off balance and you start to introduce standards that people don't have any control over. It's not anybody's fault that they were born with a certain skin color or ethnicity or height, or that they were born in a certain place. And yet when we say that they have to be evaluated through that lens, we're saying that it pretty much is their fault, which really just isn't the case. Number two is closely related, which is that political correctness completely ignores merit. That is, your aptitude, qualifications, and your character. And if we want people to add value to society, then we need them to know what they're doing, whatever positions they're appointed in. But furthermore, in a meritocracy, you have to actually earn what you're given. In other words, when you work hard towards achieving something, you're much more deserving of it, at least in my opinion, because that's so much more difficult and therefore it has so much more value than just being born a certain way. So for example, if you're, say, on an airplane, then do you want the pilot of the plane to have been chosen because they actually have experience and know how to fly the plane? Or would you rather them have been appointed because they have blonde hair instead of brown or something? Another example would be university admissions. So if you're working really hard in high school and you have really good grades, then do you think that you should be granted admission to the college you want to go to? Or should your friend get your spot because they're taller than you? If it were me, I would take serious issue with the latter. Number three, political correctness discourages debate. Because again, one of the fundamental ingredients is that you're not allowed to have certain opinions. And people don't often like to be challenged on their existing beliefs, much less proven wrong, which is why that's part of that. But debate is necessary if we want to be able to lay out all the options that we have as solutions to a problem in order to be able to pick the best one, instead of just breeding a generation of robots that all think the same way. But more importantly, debate is also healthy because best case scenario, when you're challenged on your existing beliefs, you have to support them and you get proven right because you're able to do that. But worst case scenario, if you're not able to support your opinions, then you've learned a thing or two about why your original argument was wrong, and now you can use that to formulate a new and improved opinion. And last but certainly not least, political correctness sometimes prompts us to be dishonest because, again, one of the ingredients is that you're not allowed to say certain things, so you end up keeping those opinions to yourself, even though they may be the truth. So, for example, if someone's a little overweight, then it's considered politically incorrect to bring that to their attention. So what ends up happening? They probably aren't aware of that, at least in many cases, and so they end up not taking the efforts to improve themselves, and it only ends up doing more harm than good. So don't be afraid to stand up for what you believe in, regardless of how unpopular your opinions may be, so long as they're based in facts and logic. And don't ever feel like you need to pander to people who are offended by the fact that you disagree with them and they start complaining about it. Instead, respond to that by saying, I'm sorry you feel that way, but you need to toughen up and get over it, because there's no place for delicate feelings in our society. There just isn't. So let me know if maybe you've made an argument in the past that was factually based and you know is logically coherent, but you still got opposition to it because of the current climate of political correctness. And I'd love to hear from you. So thanks for watching. Let me know if you have any other thoughts, and I'll see you next time.